Modern Hollywood thrillers think you are stupid. They don't treat you like an audience member with an imagination. They treat you like a lab rat waiting for a shock. A loud chord slams on the soundtrack, a shadow dots across a mirror, and a monster jumps out of a closet. Your heart rate spikes for 3 seconds, your adrenaline flows, and then it's over. You didn't experience fear, you experienced a basic, involuntary biological reflex. It's a cheap neurological parlor trick, and it's ruining cinema. The real monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They are sitting right in front of us, in the middle of a brightly lit room, saying absolutely nothing. True cinematic terror doesn't jump out at you from the shadows. It sits down next to you, locks eyes, and slowly drains the air out of the room until you are suffocating in pure, unadulterated silence. Welcome to the art of the unbearable slow burn, where the most terrifying sound in the theater is nothing at all.
Det vi tror det så trenger vi Harry Ole.
Ja, han har fått sparken.
Ja, men han har en.
Let's talk mechanics. Why does silence scare us more than a shrinking string section? Because silence forces the audience to do the work. When a director fills every frame with bombastic sound design, they are telling you exactly how to feel. They are holding your hand through the dark. But when the audio drops out, you are entirely on your own. In a true slow burn, silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's a physical presence. It's an active narrative weight. When a scene is drained of ambient sound, your brain panics. It begins hunting for anomalies. Every creak of a floorboard, every ragged breath from an actor, every subtle shift in low-frequency room tone becomes a potential threat. Directors who understand this don't cut away when a scene gets uncomfortable. They hold the shot, they lock the camera down on a wide angle, force you to stare at the negative space around the characters, and let the tension simmer until it is structurally agonizing. It takes immense technical discipline to trust that a 10-second pause will hit harder than a 100 decibel blast. Unfortunately, it's a discipline most modern editing rooms have completely forgotten in favor of hyperactive, TikTok-brained pacing.
Nummeret vanligvis så ville jeg ikke ha tenkt noe over det, men etter det som har skjedd med Camilla, så...
If you want a masterclass in how to turn atmospheric stillness into a weapon, look at the 2026 adaptation of Joe Nesbø's Detective Hall. Directors treat Oslo not as a scenic backdrop, but as a freezing grey purgatory. Look at how they handle the psychological torture of the bank vault sequence. A masked robber taunts a young woman, forcing her into an impossible 30-second countdown to open a vault. A lesser director would have chopped this into a frantic, hyper-edited mess with a ticking clock synth track. Instead, the camera stays agonizingly still. It focuses on Tobias Santelman's hollow, obsessive expressions as Harry Hole later dissects the crime. The sound design handled by Nick Cave, Warren Ellis, doesn't rely on the typical thriller stabs. It utilizes sparse, whipping strings that dissolve into long stretches of total dead air. The series strips away the romanticism of the crime procedural and replaces it with a gritty Gotham-esque bleakness where the emptiness of the city streets mirrors the self-destructive vacuum inside Harry's own head. The narrative moves at a crawl, deliberately frustrating viewers who want instant gratification because it understands that the real horror isn't the killer, it's the lingering frozen dread that stays behind after the killer leaves.
När man hade planerat fler mord?
Svårt att säga. Det är klart att det är möjligt.
On the opposite end of the tonal spectrum, we have the psychological thriller Unchosen. While some critics complained that the middle episodes dragged and fell into repetitive loops, they entirely missed the point of the visual layout. Director Jim Loach uses muted pastoral color palettes and a stark rigid architecture to establish the oppressive domestic sphere of the fellowship of the divine. The slow burn here is internal. Look at the framing of Molly Windsor as Rosie. She is constantly trapped in dead space, locked in medium wides that emphasizes her total isolation within her own home. Her husband Adam, played with a genuinely disturbing chilling coldness, doesn't scream or wave a weapon. His malice is quiet, cloaked in patriarchal piety and false domestic normalcy. When Christopher Eccleston's cult leader speaks, the audio mix deliberately dampens the ambient environment, making his calm, manipulative monologues feel like they are happening inside an acoustic vacuum. It's deeply claustrophobic. The show demonstrates that the most terrifying cage isn't one with steel bars. It's a quiet, sunlit room where you are completely forbidden from speaking your mind. The slow pacing isn't a flaw. It is a direct simulation of the numbing, day-to-day reality of coercive control.
I'm alright. Sure.
Why then are we still flooded with studio horrors that rely entirely on things popping out of dark corners? Because it's safe, it's easy to market, and it guarantees a predictable reaction from a casual audience. A jump scare is a product you buy, a slow burn is an experience you have to survive. When you look back at the history of cinema, the things that truly sticks to your ribs aren't the jump scares. You don't lay awake at night thinking about the time a cat jumped out of a dumpster in a generic slasher. You lay awake thinking about the lingering shot of an empty hallway. You think about the quiet, unblinking stare of a villain who isn't moving. You think about the moments where the characters realize they are doomed, and the camera simply refuses to look away. Cheap thrills wear off the second you walk out of the theater doors, but when a director masterfully weaponizes silence, negative space, and psychological rot, that discomfort follows you home. It sits in the backseat of your car, it waits for you in the corner of your bedroom.
There's no judgment here, from us or from...
We need to demand more from our thrillers. We need to stop rewarding directors who use loud noises to hide their lack of structural tension. The next time you watch a film, pay attention to the spaces between the dialogue. Listen to the room tone. Watch how long a director is willing to hold the shot before cutting away. Because in an industry that is louder, faster, and more frantic than ever before, the most radical artistic statement a filmmaker can make is to simply sit in the dark, turn off the microphone, and force you to look at the screen. Stop screaming at us. We are listening.